Look that way? Yeah. Maybe a little up. Yeah, a little up. A little more up. Yeah, that's probably okay. Let me handicam it, since that's our thing. Hey, Smoke.
Hello.
Are you looking forward to our trip today?
Do you want me to be honest?
Yes, honest.
Absolutely not.
Why not?
It's Beijing level pollution. It's humid. It's dangerous on the road. And is there anything else to say? It's a really bad place.
The pollution is absolutely terrible, though. I think that's been affecting us the most over here in Haiphong.
Sure. Now, if I was a real travel vlogger, what I'd say in the beginning right now is, I can't wait to get on the road. What a beautiful place. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. Let's see about the people and the culture and all that. So
Yeah.
what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to actually be quite real in this video. We want to talk to you guys about this whole idea of progress and freedom.
Sure.
So bear with us as we exit out of this parking garage. Very nice hotel, by the way.
Yes, very nice hotel.
But just surrounded by pollution.
Yes.
So it's not good.
Hey, you guys will see in a sec.
Yeah, anyway, I will see you on the road. What do you see as a sign of progress?
Like in a country or in a person?
I'd say in a country.
Okay. A sign of progress would be the crime dips.
Yes.
People can live not in fear of rogue people stealing and looting.
Right.
There's a semblance of law enforcement and order in society, and people have a job. Unemployment is low, so it's not about necessarily being like super wealthy or anything. It's just that people they have enough.
Right.
What about you?
I would say progress would see people coming out of poverty, being able to afford a better lifestyle.
Yep.
Healthcare issues not being big.
Sure.
In other words, affordable and available healthcare for everybody.
What are you, a socialist?
No.
I'm just joking. I'm joking, buddy.
I mean, like, for instance, come on, we just get out here. Look at this pollution. It's awful.
Yeah.
It's really awful. Now, what I mean is, I grew up in Africa, right?
Right.
I know what poverty really looks like, and I know what progress looks like as well. And by progress, I mean being able to live in a civilization where all the amenities are available at hand.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go out into the rural parts of Africa, for instance,
Right.
you don't find running water.
Hi.
Yeah. Hi, my friend.
Come in.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, let me get back to it. If you go out into rural Africa, you get situations where people have to literally walk miles every day to get water, right?
Sure.
Whether it be from a river or a pump or whatever, and then they have to come back to their village or whatever. So when you see those kinds of things start to change, where people don't have to struggle just for the basic amenities in life, that's what I call progress.
Okay.
So what does that have to do with what we're looking at now?
That's the thing, okay, is that obviously Vietnam, for most of its life, modern existence, has been a very poor country, right? People didn't have enough. People didn't have running water. They didn't have enough food. And they had war, right? That's not progress. That's not a stable society.
No.
However, things have improved drastically, and that's what happens, is that sometimes people ignore some of the bigger, elements at play, kind of like the air we're breathing that would make it, I'm pretty sure, made me quite sick very quickly.
Yeah, I've got a scratchy throat.
Yeah, ignoring these things in favor of, a little bit of progress, a little bit of stability in their life, a little bit of money in the pocket, right?
Right.
The problem is, I'm specifically going to address China in this, and this is going to be a very honest topic.
Okay.
What happens is, when you have nothing, when you have instability, when you have civil war like China had, when you have a population that struggles to make ends meet, then a top-heavy, all-powerful authoritarian government that actually allows some sort of progress and money into the country now becomes a hero. and is not looked at from the outside. Kind of like what we're looking at with this pollution here, right? Ignoring the elephant in the room in favor of just getting on with life because it's better than it was before.
Right.
And I think, a lot of people in China obviously get duped by this. This is where you'll see a huge difference in opinion with Taiwanese versus mainlanders, is because they've had a functioning democracy and they fought for it, right?
Right.
And that to get rid of that would be detrimental to their self-image of what they think is important, because they've already had the amenities. They haven't been starving in Taiwan. Right?
Correct. Yeah.
They have all that stuff. Whereas in China, it's too recent for them to be able to appreciate something like a Taiwanese democracy, and they actually don't understand it. They're like, why wouldn't they want to come back to us? You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, this is the problem, is that now with all these shining cities and people have cars now in China, all this stuff happens so quickly and they expect it, right?
Sure.
They expect this new boom of wealth. They expect all this money to come flowing into their pockets and then to be able to make a better life. When that kind of stuff is the most important drive for a society and a people, then they completely ignore how much power has been consolidated and control has been consolidated to where things can go bad because there's no checks and balances, there's no actual real functioning government that actually cares about human rights, people, healthcare, social services, all that kind of stuff you mentioned in the beginning.
Sure.
So then when the economy slows down or things go a little bit pear-shaped, people go apeshit, right? That's when coups happen, and that's when things like Venezuela happen, right? So China's in a very unique position where I think the people think that because they're not as suffering as much as they were in the past, that they're free. And I think the West is duped into this, because we look at progress and we say China's improving, look at all these buildings, look at all this money that's pouring in.
Yeah, look at the people being lifted out of poverty.
Right. Now that becomes, they're kind of like us now. They're free, right?
Yeah.
They're a free country, but they're ignoring a massive, massive thing that's actually happening in China right now. What did you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That is exactly what you said. When you start to see, look, they have LV bags and they can drive around in BMWs and Porsches, and people are well-to-do, hanging out in fancy restaurants, and the people themselves actually don't realize how under control they are until something affects them personally. That's a very Chinese thing, it's that very Confucianist sort of just ignore everything else, just only focus on your little bubble, right?
Right.
So what'll happen is a lot of my Chinese friends were burnt very badly with that peer-to-peer lending thing. Remember that? Mm-hmm. So up until then, they're loving China. They're like, we love China, we love the government, look at all the good things it's done for us. But because it never actually affects them, there's no freedom problems for them, because to be honest, in China you can live a very free life. It's just as if you're living in the West, as long as you don't run afoul of the government in any way, right?
Right, and in any way. So this is a very good example, because now a lot of these people, including my wife and people she knows, they all got duped into this peer-to-peer lending scheme, right? It's a massive thing, probably about a year ago. And everybody thought it was a fantastic investment. Little startups would spring up everywhere. And it's kind of like, it was a system where you kind of crowdfund together. If someone wants to buy a car, they need money to buy the car. So they go to this app, whatever it's called. There's a whole bunch of them back in the day. And they lend the money from there. And what happens is that money is everyone's investment money, right? And then when they pay back with interest, and that interest gets split amongst all the lenders. So, you get fairly good returns on your investment there, right? Of course, it turns out to be just a massive pyramid scheme. And then at the end of the day, the government realized it was getting out of control, and they put a whole bunch of rules in place and basically crashed the whole peer-to-peer lending scheme thing, right? And most of the companies had to close down, and that meant that everybody lost their investments because, they ran away with the money and that sort of thing. So long story short, a lot of people were suddenly unhappy. People that were like, yes, China's great, we're making money, we're the most awesome, freest, brilliant nation in the world. And all of a sudden they lose all this money and they're like, okay, well, our awesome government will listen to us. We're just going to go protest and get our money back. Yeah.
Except they found out the hard way that you can't do that in China.
I think a lot of Chinese people are duped when they see democracy on TV and say we don't care about that until they actually want it.
Yeah.
And then they realize, hey, wait a minute, I was duped because we have money now in China. We have the cities and buildings, but we can't do that.
No. By the way, let's just pull over. I want to check the GPS.
Sure.
I don't want us to go astray. No, what happened with this peer-to-peer lending thing, and the reason I'm talking about it is it affected my wife and it affected people that I know personally in China. You know, they're all part of these WeChat groups, right? That's how they kind of communicate. Oh, this is a good investment, this is a bad investment. So in these WeChat groups, they started to kind of organize a protest. Like, we're all going to go to Beijing and we're all going to go stand in front of the Hall of the People or whatever.
Yeah.
Demand that the government gets our money back from these scammers, right?
Yeah.
But then what started to happen is the people that were kind of organizing this in the little group started getting visits from the police.
Yeah.
Started to, like, the police would show up and, you know, this is not second, third-hand information. This is, you know, I know people that this happened to. And they would basically say, listen, we know you're planning to go to this protest in Beijing, but we're either going to detain you until the date is over, so whatever, for 10, 15 days until the planned protest is over. We're either going to detain you, or you can sign this paper to promise that you won't go. You know, another situation was they approached the guy's employer and basically told the employer to convince their employee that if they go, they're going to lose their job. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's these sneaky little underhanded
stuff.
things.
So basically what happened was this illusion of free, awesome, money-making, let's just go ahead and have this fantastic society type thing, got shattered for those people. And immediately they started to see the kind of control that is asserted over their lives. Of course, they lost their money, they didn't get their money back. This infallible government that they believe in, that was going to make sure that everything was going to be great, did not step in to help them get their money back, right?
Right.
And in fact tried to detain them and force them not to go and protest. So it really woke up a lot of people. And that's why they were doing this. That's why they were clamping down, is because if too many people got together and complained and kind of did this thing, then it could cause serious civil unrest.
Right.
You know?
Which happens often. I have an example.
Okay.
You remember when motorcycles were banned in Huizhou?
I do.
We were in that motorcycle group, right?
Yeah.
All those guys with big bikes. And they actually went into the law and proved that motorcycles are in fact legal and allowed on the highways.
Right, yeah.
Now, China likes to say that's not the case, right? But they found the law. They went in there and really just broke it apart, right?
Yeah.
They got a council with the local government, because in the Constitution, the local government's allowed to make local laws, right? Even though actually in reality it's not the case. You know, very minor things they're allowed to control. Anyway, they found the law. They got a council. They paid the freaking bribes to get an audience with the lawmakers, right?
Yeah.
And where are you, by the way?
I'm right behind you.
Okay, cool. They got an audience with the lawmakers, and at the end of it, they spent about 4 months of this whole process, right? All these guys are wealthy, so they're like, we can pull this off, right? We want to make this better for riders. Nope. Because at the end of the day, what happened was the Guangzhou, which is the government, the provincial government, got wind of this, and they're like, nah, you can't do that. If you pass this law and take this kind of appeal from these motorcycle riders, then now Huizhou's not going to get funding for the roads.
Yeah.
So then they're like, well, okay, see ya, bye-bye, don't ever do this again, and don't ever ask or tell anyone about this. And they're all pissed off in the WeChat group. They're posting all these legal documents and pictures and meeting with the government officials and stuff. And I can imagine a lot of freaking faith was lost.
Yeah, sure.
When all of these laws and freedoms are promised to them in the Constitution, but in reality, it doesn't work like that. Right?
Yeah, I mean, there's talk of the Constitution being rolled back anyway under the current government.
They're actually censoring it from being able to be looked up online, because it does guarantee freedom of religion, but it goes against what they're doing in Xinjiang right now.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, with all the detaining the Muslims and stuff. So the whole idea of freedom is scary to people when they finally need to do something about it.
Yeah.
and needed something addressed or taken care of. And you'll see a lot of this. That's why there's a lot of unrest with medical treatment and stuff, and killing doctors and going crazy with property and setting off fireworks and blowing up bulldozers and stuff, because at the end of the day you actually can't really get help from the government.
Now I'm going to extend this to foreigners as well.
Yeah.
How many foreigners do you know that trumpet the freedom of China and how amazing China is?
Pretty much everyone that gets there right in the beginning.
Absolutely. I think 99%, unless they've had a lot of experience in and around Asia, 99% of foreigners that get to China
it's
are like,
more free.
Wow, it's amazing. It's freer than in America, Australia, or wherever. It's like people can walk around on the streets at night. They don't need to fear for their safety, which is true.
Right.
But then they sort of go overboard, and you get these zealots. I mean, there are tons of them out there. There's absolute zealots who suddenly make themselves enemies of whichever country they came from, basically, in favor of China, because they're like, China's better and the best, and they basically shill. We did a whole episode about panda bears, right?
Yeah.
Now, I still know a lot of people like that, and that's because nothing bad has ever happened to them. However, I've got a story, and this is a story that's very recent, of how how that changes people's attitudes when something bad happens.
Okay.
By the way, slow down and let's get in the bike lane.
Sure.
All right. So there's a guy we know. He won't mind me telling the story. Okay. And obviously not going to mention his name or anything, but he's been in China for a while, and he's been very, very sort of happy with his life in China. He thinks it's awesome. Slow down, did you like just going far away?
So what happens when you speed up?
Yeah, which we shouldn't be. We should be just going at a normal rate here. Okay, cool. So anyway, he absolutely was enjoying his life. He had no problems, and I used to sit and I had a couple drinks with him one day, and I was lamenting some of the loss of freedoms. But yeah, middle school,
all these
right?
kids on scooters.
I know,
it's weird.
It's totally weird.
Anyway,
looks like they're on e-bikes, most of them, actually.
Yeah.
Might
Some
be a rule.
on bikes.
Yeah. Anyway, and he'd be like, "Nah, you're talking shit. You're overreacting. All this nonsense." Okay, kind of usual stuff.
Yeah.
And recently, he had to move out of China. I'm not going to say where he moved, but he moved somewhere else in Southeast Asia.
Okay.
And the reason this happened was, he screwed up.
Okay.
He overstayed his visa by like 7 days.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Okay. So, now the thing is, don't overstay your visa, by the way.
No. Of course not.
But the way the Chinese visas work, I think it was on a visitor's visa, which is basically like a tourist visa, right? Depending on your nationality, you get to stay a number of days, but you have to leave and then come back. So his one allows him to stay 90 days on, he has a visa that's valid for 10 years.
Sure.
But you can only stay 90 days, and you have to leave China and then come back in, right? I guess we just follow the signs to Hanoi, huh? So he overstayed those 90 days, and he stayed for like 97 days by mistake. Obviously, he just lost track of time or whatever. I don't know how, because that's never happened to me.
That happened to a friend of mine as well.
Yeah.
Remember that guy?
Oh, that guy, yeah, I remember. But yeah, dude, like, okay, so you overstay 7 days. That's bad. So you expect that you're going to pay a fine, right?
So that before you finish that, I just want to let my friend had the exact same situation. All we had to do is pay a fine. So that's what you need to know of why this is weird.
Look at this guy, like, hooting and stuff. He's having fun? Anyway, let's carry on. So, yes, you normally pay a fine. Not these days, though. But there were some very shocking revelations in his particular case. All right, because, now, like I said, I'm never going to mention who he is, but he is a friend of mine. Oh, yeah, you're getting it back at you little car. You want to honk at me? Truck's going to honk at you.
It's not the guy inside, it's just the car.
Yeah. Sorry, anyway, like I said, I know the guy. So he was kind of living a digital nomad style life in China. A lot of people do. Doing freelance work in whatever field he does. And he basically got an offer to do some work for a company in an office there. And, he doesn't have a work visa. So he shouldn't be doing that. But what they decided on was they were like, okay, listen, why don't you come see if you like the work? If it's going to work out, then we'll start the process of getting you on a work visa, right?
Right.
So he was going to the office and doing work every other day type thing. Anyway, after he overstayed his visa, he read online what he should do. And of course, everybody tells you don't try to cross the border. So if you try to cross with your, invalid visa, then there's going to be a lot of trouble. What you need to do is you need to go to your local PSB, Public Security Bureau, your local police station, and show them and apologize, pay your fine. Everything should be okay, right? Slow down, please. Keep speeding up, man. And then everything should be fine. So that's what he did. He followed the correct procedures. But when he did go, they not only did they mugshot and fingerprint him, they took a urine test for drugs, which is a little, I think that's a little odd. Obviously, they're looking for reasons to get rid of foreigners these days, so they did a urine test for drugs. But the most shocking part to him was they took him over to a computer and they brought up Google Maps or Baidu Maps, and they showed the building, that this office that he's been working in. They showed that, and they're like, why do you keep going here? Are you working here? And
wow.
he was shocked at that, and he was calm about it, and he left, right? Anyway, what happened is his visa got cancelled, and I don't know if he's got an entry ban. Probably not. But his visa got cancelled means he has to go back to his country to apply for a new one.
Yeah.
But that's a little situation actually shocked him enough and woke him up to realize that it's not this easygoing, free situation that he thought it was before. It made him realize that they are actually monitoring him. They know where he goes, and it sounds ridiculous. Sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it's a real thing that happened.
Yeah, that does happen.
And that's the problem, is all these other guys that are singing the praises of how free China is, how amazing China is, it's only because they haven't been burned yet. They haven't actually seen it with their own eyes. And all these stories they hear from people like you or me that have first-hand experienced similar situations, they're always like, those idiots, they just hate China, they're just trying to exaggerate, try to make China look bad. That'll never happen to me. I have a Chinese wife, I've got my guanxi,
I got my connections.
Yeah, I got my connections, I know this uncle in the police, blah blah blah, everything's gonna be fine. It's only those idiot foreigners like them, and then it happens to them and they're like, oh my god, they were right, fucking gotta get out of this place,
Yep.
Can you add to that?
This guy got pulled over.
Yep.
Time to pay your bribe.
Indeed.
No, I really think that it's something to be concerned about if you're considering a stay, like a long-term stay, not for a tourist thing, but keep in mind, China still has a huge security apparatus that is tasked with following foreigners around in their actions, especially if you're doing something like what we do. But even if you're just doing piecemeal work, you're definitely being watched and they're waiting to nab you, especially right now.
Yeah.
So watch this kind of foreign population dwindle for a while, I believe, if this kind of stuff is going to keep going on and on and on. Of course, we do have more personal stories of things that have happened to us, but this episode has gone on long enough.
It probably has. I do still want to add to it, though.
It's 26 minutes long.
That's good. People like it. They like. I'm speaking for people as if I know them, but I believe that they like a little bit of long format once in a while.
Okay. Well, then I'll use an example then.
Yes, please do.
Okay. When it's hard to talk about this kind of stuff because I knew that I can't talk about it when I was in China.
Right.
When I got a knock on my door one time from a cop, right? It was about 11 o'clock, and it was after I've already told the drone story, right? Now, when I was caught out for flying the drone and getting the exact same footage as everyone else does, when they brought up my file on the computer, just like the person you're talking about, they knew which building he was going to.
Yeah.
Except my file had things highlighted like often shops at Wanjia. Goes here to eat often at this Sichuan restaurant.
Right.
Often buys beer. There was notes in there.
Yeah.
Like I'm some sort of espionage victim or something. You know what I mean? It was very unsettling to see. And before I'm in before all the comments down below. They say, "Oh, the NSA. That you think they don't have all the information on you and blah blah blah." No, I don't. Not in the same level as China, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think China uses it for malicious purposes, and tries to control and make people unsettled, especially people that do what I do and do what you do. But yeah, it's terrifying, and that was another kind of little push. You know what I mean?
Sure. This kind of thing probably won't happen as much in big cities like Beijing and Shanghai, where the foreign population is big. Of course, they still have to keep an eye on the foreign population, and they always do. But when you're living in, like you were living in Huizhou, a small third-tier city, and if you live like this guy was living in Shenzhen, but he was living in the outskirts of Shenzhen, so not downtown.
Right.
And each little area has their local police district, bureau. So they're tasked with keeping an eye on like outsiders and stuff. They, they'll pay a closer eye. But yeah, it is actually quite shocking. At the end of the day, I don't want to be fear-mongering, and I'm not making this video with you in order to dissuade people from going to China. This is something I always say. But I do like people to actually see what's going on, and if they're going to go and live in a place, they have to understand what's going on there. Without having to demonize it, you just have to know that that's something you have to accept, and you can't deny it, and you can't pretend it's not happening just because you see fancy clothes and money and you feel like everything's great around you. It doesn't mean that dark underbelly isn't there too.
Right.
So as long as you're prepared and you understand that's what's going on, you can adapt and you can live with it, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So that's pretty much the be-all and the end-all of this episode, is that money and progress, even if it is glorious, as Deng Xiaoping said, right? That
allegedly,
to get rich is glorious. Yeah, maybe, if you really care about money that much, but whatever. It might look cool and interesting and nice, but remember, that doesn't stop places like China from being a totalitarian, communist, controlling place.
Right.
And if you run afoul of the law, your image will be very, very, very quickly shattered.
Yeah.
Irreparably,
Right.
So, is there anything you'd like to tell our subscribers before we sign off?
Yeah, I mean, the be-all and the end-all is that the more money that China does get, actually, it's just more money to fund, their one-party control and, like, how much they can actually do to control, right?
Right.
So that's why it's scary to see, like, the old system that was actually more comfortable, where you grease palms on a very low level to make problems go away, and now it's become, like, national security issue for the ramping up of, like, nationalism. It is fear-mongering in a way, because it's scary.
Sure.
But the reality of the situation is that most people are going to be fine, especially as a tourist or something like that.
Oh yeah.
But be aware, there's a bigger agenda that nabs people, innocent people, for seemingly innocuous things, just to promote what they want the world to think right now. So
absolutely,
be aware of that. And what do you guys think down below? Do you think your own country is spying on you and trying to get rid of all the foreigners? Yeah.
Putting radio bugs in the water, get brain force.
Yeah, exactly. Whether or not you believe in that or not, I hope you appreciate the video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. It was a very long one, but if you like to see this kind of stuff, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And I'll warn you, most of our videos are not this long, so if you thought this one is a little too lengthy, then don't worry. Most of them are around 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah. Anyway, I'd also like to say that if you think progress is worth this absolute terrible pollution that we're riding through, I think you need to recheck your priorities, because I don't think it's worth living in this dystopian, sort of polluted, horrible environment just for the sake of being able to, have king's tea. You know what I mean?
Right.
Anyway, whether or not you believe in tight government control or not, we love you all the same. So until next time, you know the drill. As always, stay awesome. Don't forget, every single Monday, another ADV China video right here, same time, same place. On Wednesday, you can check out Laowa 86, 1 p.m. EST, and Friday, just in time for a beer going, check me out on my channel, SerpentZA.